I was reading the comments. A lot of people were talking about different sort of things as it pertains to entrepreneurship, just everyday life. There was a lot of people who are, whether they're in entrepreneurship already, getting ready to start in entrepreneurship, or perhaps, there's somebody who's just regular 9 to 5, working regular job, whatever the case is, or even students who haven't quite entered the workforce. And they were talking about different sort of roadblocks that they run into. So with that being the case, it would be budgeting. Because a lot of times people talk about whether you're starting up, the right ways to start up, or if you're just working a regular job, I have no money. Everybody always says, man, I have no money, I have no funding, right?
How does your budgeting typically work? I'm curious, I want to hear yours.
Right, so mine, and I'm gonna get there, right? So essentially, it's just a matter of budgeting, obviously, but then figuring out what are your goals, right? So I think if you know what your goals are straight out the gate, then you can budget appropriately. Because if you don't know what your plan is, now you're sitting here over here like, yeah, I'll just save this, I'll invest that much, I'll spend this much, I'll adjust my salary to this point because of all of my overhead and whatever. But if you have all this extra money that you're budgeting towards, or I should say budgeting, what are you working that money towards, right? So you have to first identify your goals. So for me, how my budget operates is I'll have a set amount of money that comes in. So I'll know what my gross fluctuates, because ultimately with YouTube and everything of that nature, you never know what it's really gonna be. But I immediately adjust straight out the gate. How much am I paying in rent? How much am I paying for all of my bills? All the different systems in which I have to operate in order to run the business. How much of that is going out? So immediately I have to identify what is the overhead, not only for the month, but for the year. So then immediately that money that's there, I separate it straight out of the gate. So let's just say if I was bringing in 100,000 per year, I would take a percentage, probably about like 30 to 40, just with operational costs and everything of that nature, also including the rent, utilities, travel, and then also miscellaneous. I'll always overshoot by maybe few grand for miscellaneous, because you never know, right? You just got to be safe. You take that money, you immediately remove it. So let's just say you take 40,000, throw that to the side. Then with the remaining money, how do you want to go and break that up? For me, what I do is I'll say, all right, I'll take about 40% of that, put that towards like investment accounts. So whether I'm in Acorns, Betterment, something small, high yield savings account, something that can now, the money can grow on its own with no effort from me. And then the remaining money that exists there, that would go towards like expenses and just regular everyday life. Try to live on the smallest amount of money.
Do you find yourself being pretty conservative with the way you spend money?
Oh yeah, I'm frugal. I'm frugal. I'm frugal across the board, but there are certain things in which if I have to pay more, like for example with my phone, right? I have a superior phone, 2 Androids, right? So with that being the case, I made sure I didn't want to have to underpay. What am I gonna get an iPhone? Like, come on,
who scammed you?
Do that? Scammed? Oh no, the real scam is with the. Why would I want a product that's like it's portionally eaten? Somebody took a bite out of the apple. I don't want that. I want a whole of something. There's nobody biting into the Samsung logo.
Nobody's biting into anything. Samsung.
Oh, you've got to be kidding. That's such fool. And well, technically, Apple is biting off of Samsung with their operating systems and things of that nature.
Listen.
They're scheming.
It's the packaging though, bro. You have to respect the hustle and the packaging and the way they create it.
Yeah, but then what's on the inside is all Samsung.
Great example. You're a big WWE guy.
Oh yeah, of course.
I see you do WWE stuff.
Big time.
There could be a more athletic WWE fighter, more talented, but the guy that's gonna win is always the guy that comes out there and he has this brash personality and he's like talking all of this shit. He's the one that's getting paid the most. He's the one that the fans want to see. He's the one that, obviously, if you have both, it's even better.
Right.
But nobody wants the poorly packaged WWE fighter. Doesn't matter how athletic he is, doesn't matter how he performs, doesn't matter if he could do a double backflip off the freaking ropes. If he can't appease a crowd, if he can't talk, he's not packaged well, he doesn't have his shtick, the audience is not going to fuck with him.
You're absolutely correct. That's exactly why Samsung's packaging and everything of that nature is so much more superior. I appreciate you making the argument for me, because the person who's somewhat poor in that particular, degree, who can somewhat connect with the audience but can't seem to drive them home. That's the Apple product. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about budgeting. So with that being the case, I try to live below my means.
That's why you bought a Samsung.
Right. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go again. I'm not having a good time. This slander of Samsung product. But you have to live below your means. So then for the people who are out there in the comment section, the people who are wondering different ways in which they can navigate, with a budget, that's one of the ways that you could do it. So you make sure you identify what your goals are, and then you adjust your salary or whatever the case may be. Immediately separate the funds that go towards any type of, systems, utilities, your living expenses, and miscellaneous. You put that all together, separate that immediately from your salary, then take a large portion of the remainder that exists, put that towards investments, and then the last smaller percentage, you put that and allocate it towards your everyday sort of expenses. And then of course you have to stay on target with your goal. But then what do you do for your budget?
My budget is very interesting. I think I have it's like a 10, 20, 30, 40 rule. And I think a lot of people follow this rule. I think it's the easiest for me because I'm not really too stringent about my budget. I'm not really conservative when I spend. I'm pretty crazy when I spend. I'll spend money. I'll splash money on anything. Listen, if I get a little alcohol in me, listen, it's time to spend. We'll go to the casino, we'll blow a couple racks. But the way I look at it, what I've been trying to follow at least, you're gonna go 40% into investing, right? And it could be a variety of investment. It could be low risk, high risk, right? It could be a stock, it could be a real estate property, it could be my business. I look at content as investment, right? Like paying producers, paying editors. I think that's an investment in your business. So 40% of whatever I make for a month is gonna go into investing, business, content, stocks, real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the biggest portion of my money is gonna go into investing, right? And I think anyone should do that. Education, they should invest in their education, books. That's technically investing, right? So investing is very broad for me, but anything that makes me better or gives me an opportunity to make more money, plant little seeds of wealth, that's 40% of my budget. 30% of my budget goes to just saving and putting it away for a rainy day.
Right.
Because I'm not a big fan of saving. I think you should spend all your money as much as possible. But at the end of the day, most people have less than $5,000 in the bank. Yeah. Which is crazy. Like I think about that one time, like what if something happens to you? You're fucked, bro. Like if you get a flat tire on your car breaks down. Yeah. You're done. Yeah. That's it, your life is over. So the fact that you have, it's over. Right. So the fact that you have less than $5,000 in the bank, like what, you just die? And any emergency happens, you just die. That's like your option, that's your choice.
That's interesting, because because you separate investment and then saving. I consider saving as a portion of investment. That's why I'll always mention, like with saving with like the, whether it be like a small investment account or you put in like a high yield saving, I always put investment and saving together, but you have it separate. That's interesting.
Yeah, so the way I look at saving, it's a closed ecosystem. And when I say a closed ecosystem, this is gonna be really deep, advanced terminology. Yeah, so the business heads are gonna love this.
Yeah, make sure you sit down when you hear this.
And investing is an open ecosystem where it can grow, it can die. Like if you look at a forest, right? Sometimes the forest grows, but sometimes there's wildfires and the forest dies. Right. So for the most part, forests tend to grow. That's the way I look at investing. Saving is a closed ecosystem.
No risk.
There's no risk, but there's a lot of risk because outside, like the government and stuff, but that's even more complicated. Saving is a closed ecosystem. You don't lose money, but you don't gain money from saving. Okay. So saving is strictly there just to give you peace of mind, right? Because if all your money is invested, depending on what you're invested in, you're not really gonna have peace of mind because you're like, shit, you're gonna be watching your saving or your investments 24/7.
Because that's your cash reserve that's being played with right there. Right.
So if you have a savings separate from your investments, now your investments can grow and you're not worried about it, then you have the savings to keep you protected. In case anything happens, you're like, you know what, I got some cash, I could throw at that. I'm not worried. My rent's paid, my bills are paid. If anything happens, I'm good. So that's kind of like the secondary. So 40% investing, open ecosystem, 30% closed ecosystem just to protect me. Right. 20% is living expenses. Right. So, and that would mean rent and food. Living expenses, rent, food, travel. Travel as in like Ubers and stuff. Right. So that's like living expenses. And then 10% goes on luxury. Because I do think that there's something to be said about rewarding yourself for all the hard work you do. Okay. If I work really, really hard and I make $1 million this month, I'm blowing $100,000 on something. I don't know what it is yet. I'll take a PJ to the Bahamas. I'll buy myself a Lamborghini or something. If I clear $1 million in a month, 10% of that's going to myself.
Interesting. So that you have the luxury because I also put the luxury portion in the like the overhead. So that's like my miscellaneous area because I think if I separate it ahead of time in the year, I can project how much I'll be able to like spend. Yeah. But then if you have it separate to where you say, hey, I can work my way towards it and earn it. I always put it ahead of time so I know there's like somewhat of a cap on it, I guess.
I think for me, I don't want to put a cap on it because if there's a cap on it, then it's like, oh, no matter what, let's say I wanted a jet really badly, right? Right. I don't, it's kind of like investment. Let's say I wanted, I don't know, a Gucci shirt really badly. Okay. That's a weird one, but let's say I wanted a Gucci shirt. Oh, no, a Rolex. I wanted a Rolex really badly. I don't want to be like, damn, it's gonna take me a year to get it. I want to be like, okay, I can get it next month. I just have to make 300 grand this month, and I could spend 30 grand on bullshit. You know, that's the way I look at it. So I think there's something to be said about rewarding yourself, because it tricks your dopamine system into like, let me work harder so I could have that 10% that I could spend on myself.